What's up, everybody? Welcome in. It's episode 5 of SLC Puck. I did a lot of reading in advance of this episode because there's an awesome ESPN article I want to go over, so that's going to be the meat of this episode. But I want to thank you guys first for tuning in. Looks like my recording software is working decently right now, so hey, we'll see how that goes. Hope that continues to be the case. I tried recording an episode last night, and I was about to lose my cabeza with just how frustrating it is. So, again, this is a very pared-down sort of, bare-bones operation here. But I'm having a lot of fun doing it, and I appreciate the support you guys have given me. It's crazy to watch the numbers get bigger. I think, and especially because I think a lot of you people, a lot of you people out there have no idea who I am. But you're excited about this, and I feel lucky that you guys are spending your time with me to get excited about this hockey thing, because I'm really excited about it, and it's all I can talk about. It's all I can think about. I'm at work during the day, and it's all my coworkers want to talk to me about. They don't care about my emotions. They don't care about my job performance. They don't care about the fact that I got a new haircut and I'm coming into work and I'm looking really nice and fresh. They want to talk hockey with me, and I think that's fun. I think that's just fine. We've got some big plans for SLC Puck, including a new studio space. I'm not sure, maybe I shouldn't be saying that. Maybe it would be more fun as a surprise, but hey, I already said it, and I'm not editing this podcast, so this is what it is at this point. So I'm looking forward to that. We'll see how that goes, and more stuff on the way, including T-shirts and all that. I got to design. I got to get on shirts for you guys, so... Anyway, thanks for tuning in. This episode, I want to talk about this article that ran on ESPN.com this week. The headline was "Inside the Coyotes' Stunning Move from Arizona to Utah," and it's a really nice oral history of exactly everything that went down to get the Coyotes here to Utah. One thing you'll learn about me is that I'm really bad at pronouncing names, which is very unfortunate because I'm doing a hockey podcast, and there are a lot of challenging names from guys from European countries and even Canadian countries, and even a few American names that I'm not going to be able to say correctly the first time. So bear with me on that. Just a heads up. But I want to talk about this article, and I say that because the authors of this article have last names that are really hard to pronounce, and I apologize. I'll try to get better at that. But again, I want to go over this article. It's a banger. It was huge. It's about 5,500 words. I printed it out just so it'd be easier on my eyes to read, because that's a lot of blue light to take in on your computer screen. So, and again, I know it's like a pretty heavy read. So if you're watching this on YouTube, you can see I have notes here that I outlined kind of the key ideas, the things that I thought were most interesting. So I'm going to do the heavy lifting for you guys to read this article, and we'll go over it. And before I do, the thing that I want to say about this story, just to get this out of the way, there's no way to tell the story of this team without talking about the move from Arizona, but I don't want to dwell too much on it. I think there's a lot more to talk about in terms of the future, the present, that kind of thing. And, again, I've said this in previous episodes, but the people who love and follow the Coyotes have been really cool to me, a lot of them, even just on social media and on this. So, this is not to disrespect them. I just think this is an interesting story that I want to go over. So we'll dive right in. So again, headline, ESPN.com, "Inside the Coyotes' Stunning Move from Arizona to Utah." Here's some key points here. So, this whole process really heated up about 2 months ago. And Ryan Smith, who now is the owner of the Utah's NHL team, is also the owner of the Utah Jazz, had talked to Gary Bettman, the commissioner of the NHL. They had dinner in New York about a year ago. See, I accidentally bumped my soundboard. That was what that noise was. But they had dinner in New York City about a year ago, and then things got really hot 2 months ago when it became pretty clear to Bettman and the rest of the NHL that the Arizona Coyotes were not going to have a permanent arena at least until 2027, and that was even up in the air. And to Bettman and the NHL leadership and a lot of the other owners, that was pretty unacceptable. And this article talks about why, and it makes a lot of sense. Because, here's what you need to understand about hockey right now. And the people who follow hockey know this and would agree with it, that hockey is really hot right now in terms of its place in the in the North American marketplace. It's on TV more than ever. People are really interested. I mean, that's obvious from what's going on here. But it's really important to the NHL to capitalize on this moment, especially to capitalize on it in growing markets. Especially, places like Vegas have done really well. Seattle is doing great in terms of creating excitement. Seattle missed the playoffs this year, but Vegas has been unbelievable. And so it's clear to the NHL that like hockey is something people want to get behind, and there's an opportunity to really grow the game. The problem is that wasn't happening in Arizona, and this happens here. I mean, this goes down through the history of the franchise. The Coyotes reported significant losses last year, the worst in the league. That's pretty acceptable. Unacceptable, I should say, for the Phoenix market, which is one of the largest markets in the United States in terms of population, income, television numbers, that kind of thing. That's very unacceptable. And it really all comes down to mismanagement, which is what this article goes into great depth on. It's not just the previous ownership that has that doomed the Coyotes. They've been mismanaged, misowned almost since they moved from Winnipeg in 1996. Just trying to flip through my notes here, find that. So, they've been in and out of arenas for a while. They moved away to an arena in Glendale, which is a suburb of Phoenix. That took them away from their core fan base, and that really hemorrhaged their attendance. Let's see. They were propped up by the NHL since 2009. The NHL took ownership in 2013 and then gave it to a ownership in a 15-year deal that included a lease with the city of Glendale, the city where that arena was, that kept the city from moving to Seattle at that time. In 2015, the city voted to end that lease and signed a shorter-term deal because the Coyotes were not doing very good at paying their bills. And in 2021, the city of Glendale and the Gila River Arena, which is interesting. I've been to that arena. I remember when I played for the Utah Golden Eagles, and the first year we went and had a junior tournament down there in Phoenix, and we went to a Coyotes game, funny enough, and it was in that arena. It's cool. It's a cool space. They've got a mall attached to it. It's pretty nice. It should work. You think it would kind of be like a very modern setup in terms of like a sports entertainment anchored, entertainment area. So I mean, it should work. It just didn't. So they kicked the Coyotes out after the 2022 season. So the Coyotes were forced to go to the Mullet Arena. That's been well documented. It's the 5,000-seat college arena on Arizona State's campus. The Coyotes put a little bit of money in there to upgrade it. And it was cool at first, is what they said. The first year was kind of like, oh, this is cool. It's a small building. It's nice and loud. But, the next year, that novelty had kind of worn off, and, players found it pretty unacceptable. And in the NHL's mind, they're like, hey, listen, this Coyotes team is coming up. They're eventually going to get things together in terms of their on-ice product. Can we really afford to put a nationally televised Stanley Cup final in this 5,000-seat arena, especially at a very critical time when we're trying to grow the sport? And the answer is no. They can't do that. It's bad business. It's very, very critical, as I said, for the NHL to continue to grow. This is their golden era moment. They've got a lot of great players, marketable guys. They're doing fantastic in many markets around the country. It was just too big of a liability to keep things going the way they were in Arizona. So there was interest in other markets getting a team. Atlanta, who has had a team before, was interested. Houston Rockets owner, his name's Tillman Fertitta, I'm probably saying that wrong. Again, I say things wrong. Go ahead and correct me. Quebec City, obviously they would be very interested. They have the Nordiques. Kansas City, that's a growing sports market. Cincinnati, they've been an AHL city for years. They've all been interested. But this article goes into great detail talking about, the courtship that Ryan Smith and Gary Bettman had. Bettman just asked him point blank. He's like, listen, can you pull this off? Can you make this happen? And Smith said, yeah. And Smith made him a few promises. His promise was for this season, I'm going to have 12,000 seats at the Delta Center. Soon I'll have over 17,000. I'm not sure how they're going to do that. I'm very interested to see what the plans are for that. Remains to be seen. Ryan talked a lot about the technology that's going to be helping to renovate and open things up for hockey. So I've been in the Delta Center. I've been to a hockey game at the Delta Center. It is not an ideal NHL venue right now. How that changes, I think, is going to be a fascinating story to see. But it's a better situation next year than what the Coyotes would have had in Tempe. So that's a huge reason why they're there. But anyway, this article continues. While this courtship was happening between Bettman and Ryan Smith, the Arizona Coyotes players pretty much had no idea what was going on. It says here they were still in the dark. They thought there was a plan in motion to keep them in Phoenix. But they didn't know how little faith the NHL had in that plan being executed by the ownership group and how badly they wanted to get the Coyotes out of the Mullet Arena, which was pretty bad. They wanted them in a bigger arena for a lot of reasons, revenue, viewership, something like that. So again, they tried the ownership group. Alex Marullo Sr. made a few pushes. Here's an interesting note I thought was funny. He bought the team in, what year was this? Sorry, again, it's like 12 pages here of notes that I was taking because this was good for me because I knew the story a little bit, but this goes into great depth on a lot of these. I think he bought it in 2019. I think I might be wrong on that, but anyway, he bought it for $300 million, and considering he just sold it to Ryan Smith for $1 billion, I'd say he did all right. I mean, embarrassed the hell out of himself. And that's kind of the thing that this talks about more is just how incompetent this ownership group was. And some of these stories are pretty incredible. They really had become an embarrassment for the league, and a lot of these stories spread. And this one's pretty crazy. This is, I think, the highlight of the article in terms of like the holy cow factor. Says here, the team's creative accounting was a constant source of concern around the league. There were incidents over the years of the Coyotes skimping on money. The Coyotes would try to stay at lesser hotels than the creative bargaining agreement stipulates, which to me sounds a lot like that episode of Seinfeld where George tried to put the New York Yankees in a Ramada in Cleveland or whatever. Sounds like that was actually happening for the Arizona Coyotes, which is hilarious. Ownership tried cutting corners when they could, like removing the printer and copying machine from the coach's room. Petty. I like it. It's funny. Multiple sources told ESPN that the Coyotes were either late paying their hotel bills at the Ramada or the Quality Inn, and sometimes just crossed out the total and paid a different amount, which I didn't know was legal. I didn't know that was something that people could actually do, but apparently that's creative accounting for you. You can do that if you're an asshole who doesn't care. That to me was just crazy. Just continuing, other sources indicated local businesses would come to the team seeking payments and be offered a fraction of what was owed, and then be negotiated down to take less than what was actually owed. So these guys were just absolute assholes, apparently. That's just so petty, so cheap. Everybody hated him. They asked Marullo about it. If I'm saying his name wrong, I apologize, but you guys don't care. You don't like him. He said he was unaware of this. Having been in business for 40 years, you wouldn't be around if you didn't pay your bills. That's all I want to say about that. And then the next line's hysterical. The Coyotes declined to comment further on their approach to paying bills. Well, what does that tell you? Again, it just talks more about their bumbling incompetence in Phoenix, in Arizona. Shane Doan, their most legendary player, all-time leading scorer, played with the franchise for over 1,400 games, 20 seasons there. His son was a part of the Coyotes franchise. He was drafted in the 2021 draft. He's working his way through the system. He's debuted in the NHL, so he's been there for him. He was at the final game at Mullet Arena. He's the face of that franchise in the eyes of many people, and they could not have given less of a shit about him. They were so disrespectful. He came on board after he retired to be chief hockey development officer, and then wanted to work his way into president of hockey operations, which is a pretty typical career path for somebody with his pedigree, which makes this next. And he was in the NHL for 20 years. He probably knows a lot about putting a team together and creating a good on-ice product. But the Marullos have no interest in competence. He was told he wasn't ready for that position, a verdict handed down by the owner's son, the chief brand officer, which is by the way not a job. That's a made-up title. Who had taken a more active interest in the hockey operations department, which is hilarious. The guy who gave himself a pretend marketing job is making decisions about the hockey product that goes on the ice. So that's just hilarious. So Doan left and took a job in the Maple Leafs office, which is not a super successful franchise. I mean, I think a lot of people in Toronto are probably disappointed with that team, but they've been a hell of a lot better than the Coyotes in terms of competence and playoff appearances. So just continues. So the situation came to a head with the NHL. Finally, in March, Bettman approached Marullo and said point blank to his face, like, can you tell your players that there's going to be an arena built by the time their careers are over? Because we've done the math, and it looks like it's pretty clear a lot of your guys on your team are never going to be able to play in an actual NHL arena the way things are going. And Marullo, to his credit, was honest. He said, no, I can't say that. I can't get an arena built for these guys. So that was unacceptable to the NHL, as it should be. So the NHL began the process of brokering the deal with Ryan Smith. Ryan Smith had no contact with Alex Marullo Sr., which is pretty interesting. The NHL's biggest task in brokering this deal, and again, this is pretty unprecedented. This article goes into that a lot. There's been some ownership changes over the years in sports, but never one where a league has been so proactive in getting an existing owner out. Maybe the exception being when what's his name? The guy who used to own the Clippers. They're doing that. Donald Sterling, former LA Clipper guy, when they made him sell the team, the NBA did. But this Alex Marullo guy didn't, wasn't on the mic, saying racist things. Wasn't caught on a hot mic, saying racist things like Donald Sterling. He was just a dumbass. And I guess the team around him was. So they call this a scenario that's never been done before in sports. They deactivated the Coyotes, and they've given Marullo 5 years to get it together, get an arena. He's still going to be sitting on the board of governors as an inactive owner, but he's got 5 years to make some serious progress. Otherwise, they might have to move on to finding other options in Arizona. Because the thing is, they really want to be in Arizona. They need to be. The NHL does. It is a huge metropolitan area in Phoenix. There are a lot of people there, a lot of television sets. It's critical to have. Phoenix has an NFL team, an NBA team, Major League Baseball. Hockey has to be there, but it can't be there in the circumstances, that they were mired in for years. That was just totally unfeasible. And for Ryan Smith, it was just good timing, right place, right time, and that's why he got the team. He was willing to do hard things, to make promises, to say that, hey, whatever it takes, we're gonna scramble, we're gonna make it work, we're gonna help you, NHL, is basically what Ryan said. And the NHL is willing to trust him. And I think that's big. And Ryan Smith has done some great things to to sort of get this team ready. We saw how excited people are. That he's definitely played a big role in that. They've sold over 20,000 season ticket deposits, including 2 to yours truly. But here, this part I really like here in this article, and it kind of endeared me a lot to Ryan Smith. And I've been critical on this podcast about, his branding abilities, that's whatever. Ryan, if you're listening, and I know you are, I know you love the show. I know you have your burner accounts checking this out. I just want to say, I thought this part was great here. I really thought this was cool. After the deal was announced, on April 18th, Smith met with Coyotes players in Arizona, taking the entire team on an outing to Scottsdale National Golf Club. He golfed with different groups, asking a lot of questions about what they needed from the new franchise and doing a lot of listening, which I think is fabulous. I think that's really great. The players loved it too. He said he was a real beauty. One player said he gets it. And the coaches were excited. Head coach of the Coyotes, whose name I'm not going to pronounce because it looks like a nightmare. I don't want to get it wrong on a hot mic and be criticized. I'll just say it. Turigny. I'm thinking so fast. I forgot his first name. Turigny met the new owners for the first time when they visited Phoenix. And he said, honestly, they filled us with a lot of emotion and with pride to be a part of what's happening moving forward. And according to sources, the Coyotes players who are signed through next season have genuine excitement about the move to Utah from a hockey perspective. This is great. Hockey people, you're going to love this paragraph. Listen to this. They know that, as was the case with the Golden Knights and Kraken, the novelty of playing in a new market will immediately put them in the spotlight. I think that's true. Expect Utah's first home game to be on national television, for example. I think that is true. They anticipate Utah will be able to attract better free agents because they won't be concerned about the stability of the franchise. That seems very true. And it's funny because that is such a stark contrast from the team building that the Utah Jazz are forced to do, where they know they're not a free agent destination. It'll be bizarre to me, that shows like the difference in makeup, I guess, of hockey and mentality of players, I guess. And we can go more into that later. But to me, that was an interesting line to be said about a sports team based in Salt Lake City, Utah. A professional sports team, I should say. So something we're not used to. But again, a lot of great information here. The team might end up with a nickname next season, but to me, the operative word was might. I don't think that's going to happen. I know they're taking their time. They hired Doubleday and Cartwright, a firm that has handled branding for numerous pro teams, including the Milwaukee Bucks, who I said in a previous episode have the best branding in professional sports. So there you go. How smart am I? Ryan Smith and I thinking alike. Ryan also talks about how Jazz players and coaches and administrators or administrative staff or front office folks are also willing to chip in and be excited and help get the Coyotes excited for this. And the last line is great here. This is from Ryan Smith. I think that we can bring that. He's talking about an upward trajectory. I think we can bring that. People are watching us. They truly are. That's true. People are watching me, which is weird. And the fact that we're running toward the NHL, we're actually doing it in a sticky situation, shows how bad we want it and how bad everyone else should be a part of it too. I think that's 100% right. I think that's a great encapsulation of this whole story. And that's sort of my concluding thought here is, this story is great. Again, I hope it's not too much of a heartache for Coyotes fans, but I'm sure you guys know the reality of the situation better than I. You know how to pronounce the key players' names better than I do. This has been kind of a crash course for me. I wasn't super familiar with the Coyotes before this. But I think this really is Utah's moment. I think Utah wants to grow up. We want to be a big city. We want to be on the same level as Las Vegas, as Seattle. Not just in terms of sports, but in terms of who we are as a culture. I think we want to shed a lot of the perception that people around the country have about us. And I think hockey is a great vessel to do that. And I think people around here who want to be a part of what's happening in Utah, and let me just say this. I hear this said all the time. I always hear people say, God, I can't wait to get out of Utah. Utah sucks. And to them, I would say, please get out. Please, you should leave. I would love that if you left. If you don't want to be here in Utah, you should definitely leave. I would really be happy for you if you found your happiness somewhere else, because that would also be good for me. And it's, again, it's our moment here in Utah to really grab hold of this. We will be on national television a lot. I hope fans come out in big numbers. I'm sure they will. I think there were a lot of things to indicate that this will be a big success. We saw it at the welcome party. I have the vlog. Go ahead and check it out. But this article, again, go check it out on ESPN.com. I feel like I covered a lot of the key points for you. It is a hard read. It does take some time. So, but I hope you guys found that informative. Just me running through that. But we're at 25 minutes now. I think this seems like a good time to wrap up. I big props to my recording software for hanging in there and doing the job it did. So it's me giving the computer a pat on the back there. Good job, computer. All right, so we'll go ahead and wrap it up there, guys. This has been episode 5 of SLC Puck. Please go ahead and like, subscribe, leave comments, reactions. I try to reply to as many of the comments as I can. You guys have been awesome. Follow me on Twitter and the other social medias too. SLC Puck. I'm not that active, just mostly on Twitter right now. But again, having a ton of fun being a part of this with you guys. We'll see what happens next, and we'll see you on the next episode of SLC Puck. Catch you later.